Hey folks, and welcome back to part 5 of the Northern Snakehead Truth Series. Now, as I've done at the outset of the past couple videos, if you haven't seen the 4 preceding parts of the series, definitely go back and check them out. Of particular note, part 1 of the series, we define the term invasive and outline the fact that thus far, based on the science thus far, there's no evidence to support Northern Snakehead being labeled as invasive. And we also detail who John Odenkirk is and why you should consider him an authoritative voice on the subject of Northern Snakehead. So in today's episode, we're going to cover hibernation, do snakeheads hibernate, do Northern Snakehead travel overland, and lastly, are they dangerous to humans? So I'll save my commentary for after the actual video. Let's get straight to the video. One thing you talked about before was torpor, or the Semi Hibernation.
Yeah.
Now this year was pretty warm up until about the past 2 weeks, and as a result, I've seen guys, on social media out there catching snakehead on the eastern shore of Maryland out through about December time frame,
Right?
Because we had a few of those warm days. But when it comes to snakehead hibernation,
Right.
I actually walk us through it, because I don't want to put out any bad information about what their hibernation actually is, if there's a magic water temperature, if we know it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. This is almost as sort of cloudy as this repeat spawning question. I thought I kind of had it figured out when I saw a 1930s reference from a guy named Okada from China. The abstract was translated in English, but the body of the paper wasn't. So I don't do Mandarin too well. But he claimed it was a true hibernation. And I'd sort of been working on that hypothesis for most of my years with snakeheads. But I had an interesting discussion with Nick. He came down from Canada to hunt with me. He was the one that did his PhD with snakeheads at Tech. And
God, what torture that would be.
He honestly, and it makes more sense now, because if you think about it, Jason, Captain Jason, the catfish guy, blue cat guy, Pohig,
Mm-hmm.
he was catching snakeheads in a cast net. You remember last year, I think it was February, we had like some of the coldest winter we'd had. Coldest weather.
Yep.
It was just so cold out there, and he was catching snakeheads. He was dropping his cast net to get shad bait for blue cats. It's like, and he texted me these pictures, and most people I wouldn't believe, but I believe Jason. I said, "Holy crap! How?"
Yep.
Literally, it was like this. The snakeheads are swimming around, underneath the ice. I mean, he's not getting his cast net through the ice, but on the edges of where the ice was. And
Yep.
I just was astonished because I assumed these fish at these water temperatures were burrowed in the mud, which they do. And they were shut down metabolically with the huge swim bladder and living off that for 2 months or however it is. But you mentioned in December being sometimes a good month to fish for snakeheads, and I agree. I mean, I haven't caught a lot in December with hook and line. I have put electricity, but in some of the milfoil pods, the milfoil there's a skeletonized structure that kind of persists into the winter and maybe even all the way through. And we saw a lot of snakeheads in these milfoil beds a few mild winters ago. It might have been 16 or 15. But, mid-December, out there, just where you'd be on the flats, 3 feet of water, skeletonized milfoil beds, and snakeheads everywhere. So at some point, though, they do pretty much shut down, most of them. I've heard of them being caught in power plant outfalls and things like that any month.
Oh, yeah.
Pick your week. But most of them, I still believe, do primarily shut down. Whether it's a true hibernation or not, I don't know. I was calling it that based on that Chinese reference from the 30s. But Nick makes a pretty convincing argument based on some of his telemetry work. Mm-hmm. And more I hear anecdotally from anglers, whether they're catching them on hook and line or snagging them or catching them with nets during times of the year when I wouldn't expect them to be moving around and getting caught in passive types of gear. It does give you reflect time to say, hey, they're not all shut down. I think it's a good rule of thumb that the activity gets pretty damn low.
Yeah, exactly.
From about, if it's a normal winter, from about January 1 through early March. Now, back in, I think it was 15, came out of a pretty harsh, maybe month of temperatures, and we found dead snakeheads. Never seen it before, never seen it since. But we had dead snakeheads floating around in the first week we were out, which was, I think, the first week of March. Why those fish died, I don't know. I don't necessarily think it was related to the cold, but I don't really know how else to explain it.
It's interesting.
There's a lot of little questions like that with snakeheads that we still don't know many things.
So Northern Snakehead, are they traveling overland?
No.
Okay, there you go. All right.
Incorrect, sir.
Now, are there any other species of snakehead that can traverse land effectively?
So I think there are. So there's two main genre of snakeheads. There's Kana and then Paracana. Paracana are the little guys that are primarily African, that are more popular in the aquarium trade and less in aquaculture and fishing, hook and line type fishing. Those, I do believe, are more adept at terrestrial movement. Now, snakeheads, because they breathe air and because of their body shape, they can flop and squirm on wet ground, like American eels or other fish that are shaped like that. But this notion of them walking around or supporting their weight on their pectoral fins is complete bunk.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So there we go. That's what I wanted to get across there. Now, here's one more. I'm a huge fishing show fan, and one of those was River Monsters. So River Monsters showcased the snakehead. Yeah. And of course he plays it up. You got the zoom in on the snakehead with the big teeth and all that. Now, one of the ones they focused on was the giant snakehead over in Asia. Right. And according to them, and I don't necessarily dispute this one, they said they've had recorded instances of giant snakehead attacks on humans. But that's the giant snakehead. That's the point I want to get across here. And maybe you'll surprise me. Are there any recorded credible cases of northern snakehead attacking any human?
No.
Okay.
None. Zero cases. But let me relate one quick story.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, of course, everybody, especially in 04 and 05, we made many trips out doing surveys, because that was when we were still in the learning. Well, we're still doing that, but we probably made more trips even then than we are now. I don't think there was a single trip we went on and we didn't have a news crew, from either a local or national or Nat Geo, that type, Smithsonian, places like that. We had
taking my spot. I'll go out there.
And that was always the question. Oh my God, get back. And then always, how many times have you seen, an attack? Never. What do you mean never? That was always astonishment. And so I think it was probably maybe 06. 06 was like one of the first times that we were out and didn't have a news crew. And I was taking a snakehead out of a net, and it turned at the wrong moment, and I wasn't paying attention, and its teeth came right across my fingers, and there was blood everywhere.
Oh God!
And everybody was dying laughing, saying, "Holy crap! Imagine if the video was on you, the snakeheads attack biologist. It would be on every page." Yep. And we just laughed and laughed about that. That's the only time a snakehead ever cut me. And again, I was not paying attention. They're not like a bluefish. Like, you take a bluefish off a hook, and it'll look at your finger, and it'll lunge for it. Yeah, it's like pissed off. Like, I'm going to bite you.
They're snapping.
Snakeheads don't do that. I mean, somebody that's in a kayak maybe at some point might have had an experience because they're so hard to handle, and they do flop a lot, and they're slimy. So things get messy. Yep. And so I could see how people can get cut. But they don't.
Hey everybody! I hope you enjoyed part 5 of this series. We only have one part left, and in that final part of the series, we're going to be covering: can northern snakehead achieve gamefish status? If so, how? And what part do we play as fishermen in the regulation of this species? And lastly, what types of fish should we harvest, if we're going to harvest? And there'll be some lessons in there that apply beyond the world of snakehead, but to the world of snakehead as well. Now, with that being said, to close out today's video, I thought what I was going to have for you was going to be a completely epic standalone video, because I went out Friday of last week with a buddy of mine, and we nailed slab crappie and snakehead in February. And I was like, yes, winter snakehead and slab crappie, kick video. It's going to be awesome. Until I saw this. In my book, it was officially worth the trip. Even if... Yes, folks, that's right. I doubled up right off the bat with 2 slab crappie, 13 and a half inches. And one of them flung a little bit of water and blood back onto the camera, and I didn't see it. So I filmed the rest of the day with that stuff on the camera. Oh, it would have been a great video. But it's still not too bad, and it's very germane to our conversation because we just talked about whether or not snakeheads hibernate. Now, based on my experience, what it seems to be is that metabolic rate shuts way down, especially if it's cold and icing up. But if you can string together a few days in a row of 50 to 60 degree weather during the winter, you can find them. You can get out there and find them. It's pretty much a completely live bait operation during the winter, but you can get after them. So, to close out this video, if you want to keep the conversation going, if you want to make sure we're getting the facts and the evidence out there as opposed to the media hype and the sensationalism and the rumors and everything else, please like, share, and subscribe. Pass the word around so we can have the dialogue. You know, this is not a be-all, end-all video, but it does help us start a quality conversation based on evidence, and that's really the best we can do. So aside from that, I'm going to close out this video, have a few more photos from people who sent me their snakehead photos over time. If you have some, send them to me. Can't guarantee they'll make it into the next video, but I will try. And with that being said, any questions or comments, let me know, and y'all have a good one. Boy, if I ain't enjoying myself. This might be a snake this time. This thing feels big. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a snake, dude. Snake number 1 of the year. Come to, oh, that's bigger than I thought. It's not a monster, but it's bigger than I thought. So let me get your picture and I'll have you out of here. Let me get it. Yes. Oh, thank you, beautiful. There she is. Nope, there she goes. Here we go. All right. Now, you are free, gorgeous. Yes. Yes. Mission f***ing accomplished, bro. Hang the banner. Oh, God. Every time I pick her up, she's like, no. Yes, you beautiful thing, you. Gotta love these fish. All right, hold on. Oh, no, you almost made it. You almost made it. Yeah, it's crazy how lethargic they are, though. Oh, you got it. You. Oh, man. Yes. Oh. 2 of my favorite fish today. Man. I like to be around one time to see. Oh, that's a snake. That's a snake. I think so. Is it? Yes, a snake on the marabou jig, baby. Snake on the marabou jig. I'll tell you what. Boy, what a day.